All right. So thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to be here. It's first of all, welcome, Katja. Welcome to Luxembourg. It's not your first time here, but I'm glad that you're meeting your audience. Tomorrow you have signatures at Ernster. Maybe you've seen on the internet we are #1 at Ernster. So this, yeah, it's encouraging. Let's put it like this. And maybe before we start, would you like to say something, Katja?
First of all, I'm incredibly happy and honored to be here and talking to you. It still feels unreal to me, the fact that we are #1 in Ernster and the fact that I'm talking to you and that the book is out and it's read by so many people. When we started this journey, we couldn't have imagined that the book is going to take us here. I would say that there are so many love stories out there, written and retold, but I would say that Blindspot is unique in a way because it tells about love in the times of modern crises. And so it uncovers difficulties that people have to deal with in the modern days.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is a short presentation. I want to leave a lot of time for you to ask your questions. And even after we're done, the idea is that you can talk to Katja, you can talk to me. This is supposed to be a moment of dialogue. We discussed with Katja the best way to start, and we feel the best way is to read chapter 1. Mm-hmm. So if you agree, I will oblige. We have 2 versions for those who wonder. It's the exciting part of this publishing thing. So I can take the Luxembourgish version if you want, or I can take the international version, which is distributed on Amazon, and basically it's printed on demand. So I'll go with chapter 1, which is my favorite. It's called Flashback. A blue Aral station at 3:07 in the morning. The kind of blues that does not exist in nature, only in corporate guidelines and in the minds of insane marketeers, mastering the science behind brand attraction. It worked with Katja. After 6 hours on the road, this fluorescence hypnotized her off the highway and into the parking space. She stepped out of the Skoda, caught between dream and survival. The car coughed at the far edge of the lot, its hood covered with dust. Her fingers were trembling. She wasn't quite sure where she was. She remembered how just minutes earlier her eyes had grown so tired that the road began to play tricks on her. Shapes wobbled, lines doubled. For a heartbeat, she saw Troy in the middle of the road watching her. The vision lasted half a second, maybe less, but fear hit her with full force. She could not tell what frightened her more, the sudden apparition of him or the truth of herself behind the wheel, with Jan and her mother in the car driving too fast into the dark, half asleep, while pretending she was still in control. Where was she? Technically, somewhere near Chemnitz. But at this stage of the trip, it did not matter. She was out of Ukraine. That was the whole point. Borders were just lines that kept moving through centuries. And the whole game for thousands of years had been to sit on the right side of it at the right time. She walked towards the bright interior, hammered by fatigue, not sure what she was looking for. Heat, maybe. Resting her eyes for sure. And inside, shock, an overabundance of normality. 2 truck drivers drinking their coffee while watching a Netflix series on an iPhone. A cashier asking for the 267th time if clients wanted to buy a sneakers and get one free. People suffering their little sufferings. Too much light, too many refrigerators, a television showing war scenes in a loop. Highlight of the day, a missile shearing the corner of a high-rise on Lombanovsky Avenue. She picked a pack of Haribo and a toy truck for Jan, who was still sleeping in the back seat. And she bought water and a sandwich for her mother, who had reclined in the passenger's chair, eyes closed, but did not sleep a second. She insisted on maintaining this position, guarding her grandson, while Katya was inside the Aral station. Katya drifted past shelves of biscuits, nuts, and sodas, straight to the electronic vendor machines. She scrolled on the digital screen, coffee or instant soup? Instant soup. Tomato, mushroom, or chemical chicken? She pressed mushroom. A beep. Steam. She leaned against the shelf to keep upright the word spinning. And then it hit her, the smell, potatoes, mushrooms, fried onions. The air itself became a time machine. She was 7. Again. The kitchen square, oilcloth table patterned with apples. The wood-burning stove warming up the space. Katya on the too tall stool, legs dangling. Grandmother commanded the room like a general, herbs in one hand, knife on the other, chopping dill. She slid a spoonful of sour cream into borscht. Eat. A command, a prayer, the closest word she owned to tenderness. And when Katya hesitated, you eat now, Katyushka. Katya obeyed. Nobody refused food here. Hunger wasn't about appetite, it was history. Her grandmother had once boiled belts into broth, scraped bark from trees. She never said Holodomor. She didn't need to. The famine lived in her bones, in her habit of hoarding walnuts, in the candles tucked into drawers just in case. Once or twice during a family gathering, she used a wicked euphemism for these atrocious years. Under Stalin's watch. That is how strong she was. Katya lifted the spoon, heat spread through her chest, pure love. You eat, you grow, you become strong, her grandmother said, pouring milk into a mug. Katya nodded, cheeks full, unable to answer. She didn't know these words would become ingrained inside her body like a family tattoo, passed down in blood. That one night, in a German gas station, glowing blue, they would rise again, triggered by a cheap mushroom soup. And at that precise moment, she felt invincible. The soup scalded her tongue. Machine hot, she walked in the fluorescent aisle, comforted by the presence of her grandmother by her side. Katya was holding a pepper cup with both hands. It took her another few minutes to finish her soup and walked out. The cashier didn't even blink. Another refugee, another long night, business as usual. The cold air hit her face. She crossed the lot and carefully opened the rear passenger door. Jan steered, but kept sleeping. She placed the toy truck next to him. She slid back into the wheel, started the engine. The GPS recalculated another 4.5 hours west. And yet she felt something new. The tension inside her whole body loosened. She now remembered clearly who she was, the granddaughter of a heroic survivor, the daughter of endurance, the mother of a boy who deserved a life measured in summers, friends, and trips to the sea. A little human defined by choices wide as horizons and by the innocence of infinite possibilities. She put the car in gear, pressed the accelerator. Germany was stretching ahead. The Aral station shrank in the rear view mirror, a cube of neon blue dissolving into black. So the funny part about this chapter is it used to be chapter 17.
Right. And basically, in the beginning, we were writing everything in the chronological order. And the beginning of the story was when Troy, the protagonist, arrived in Borispol, in Kyiv airport, and this is how everything started. But then, I think it was the fourth time when as we were rewriting the book, we decided to start with this chapter. We shuffled the chapters a little bit, and it made the story more captivating. True?
Sometimes you don't need to be following the timeline accurately. So maybe I just start with the obvious question that everybody's asking us all the time, and I'll ask it to Katja. What is the blind spot?
Right. I probably would have to start answering this question with how everything started with us, right? How we came to writing the story, and everything started in Stadel, a beautiful museum in Frankfurt, where we met. And we started chatting about things, and then we went for a coffee, and then I don't know how this happened, but we just started sharing personal stories, and the conversation was flowing so well. And at one point, I told you about my life and how I got to Frankfurt, and about this crazy 3 years of war back then, or 2 years of war. And also I shared about my experience of going to a dialect museum, which is also in Frankfurt. And it's a fantastic immersive experience of spending 1 hour in the dark, led by a visually impaired guide. And the guide in the beginning had told us that, there was a phrase that she said. It was just amazing. It just struck me so drastically. And she said, "You have to talk to each other, otherwise you're invisible." And as I was telling you this, I could physically see how the parts of the story were flying over your head, connecting together into one picture, or a couple of puzzle pieces were connected into one picture. And you told me that if we were to write a book, the book would be called Blindspot. Yeah. And this is how it was.
Yeah, and of course, surely the Dialogue Museum helped, because this blind thing, of course, is very inspiring. For those who are not familiar with the story, maybe you know it's based on her story, but it's
inspired.
It's inspired. It's a fiction, inspired by, but it starts with a love story between an American NATO person and an Ukrainian woman. And as you were telling me this story, and especially how it completely changed through the war, I was so shocked by this very deep feeling that I never felt before, that love basically depends largely on two things, which is the context, and this is the impact of the war, but also cultures. And when you were telling me the story, it sounded really so clear that what seemed to be a very strong relationship turned to something very different very quickly. And of course, I couldn't help but see the metaphor of you impersonating Ukraine and Troy impersonating the West, basically. And so this is, I think, the long story of the Blindspot name, the name Blindspot story. Then again, people might see, for example, here it's interesting to see between the local version, which is a Luxembourgish version, a Ukrainian story of love and war. The international version is a story of love and war. So why did we do this in the international version? We felt that people were misunderstanding our intention. And I'm not going to give names, but I was surprised. Like when we published the book in January, I offered it for free to people who are very strong advocates of Ukraine publicly, and several said, no interest. No, it's free, no interest, keep it. And so we felt at the time we were going in the wrong narrative, because we live in this polarized world where you need to choose your camp, and so we feel it's more a story of love and war than it is a story purely
of war.
And or just pro-Ukrainian. I think, of course, we have chosen our camp for sure, But it's a problem nowadays where everything is so polarized, you really need to be careful how you are understood. So this is basically how we got there. But let's talk then about love and war. And you brought something which I find really incredible.
So I think I would need to explain how much there is war and how much there is love in this story. So I would say that, so as I was explaining how much there is war and how much there is love and how these two themes live together in the story, I would say that war in the book and in life is just a very dark background that contrasts with everything that is in the foreground, which is relationship between people and love and the drama and the pain and everything. It just seems so better when it's put in front of such a dark background. And when talking about war, as a Ukrainian, I would like to say that I'm honored and privileged to stand here in my civil clothes, and I can only do that because there are other people, men and women, strong, beautiful, brave, who at the moment are standing for us wearing completely different clothes. And I would like to pay tribute to these people, to Ukrainian soldiers.
So where do those shoes come from?
These shoes come directly from the front line. When I was preparing to the presentation, I thought that I wanted to have something that would represent them here, because I can only speak here and stand here because they are fighting for my country. And I wanted to have something that would represent them in this room. And so...
Yeah, and I think if I conclude on the war part, I think many people ask me, why did I also personally, based in Luxembourg, start writing this book? Some of you know I'm following politics very closely.
Really?
Passionately.
Really?
I've not erased anything I was posting in 2022. I'm a peace advocate, and it was not a popular idea at the time. And you know, I followed everything, and I just felt last year that this was the right thing to do. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but my understanding is, you know, for a year now, the US have clearly said they are no longer financing this. We all understand Europe is struggling to finance it. It took like 6 months to unlock this 90 billion loan. It's a loan, and my understanding is it might be paid at the end of June, maybe. So between all the announcement and the glorification of the Europe action, I felt that working on this story is a very solid way to pay tribute to the people who are, as you said, but this is what we share. While we talk and celebrate, I saw an article yesterday about how people in Kiev are doing parties despite the war. I don't think this is the right side of the story. Of course, people still live during a war. The thing we should focus on is we only see when drones from Ukraine are hitting in Russia, but every day missiles and hundreds of drones are hitting Ukraine. And at one stage, we all need to find a way to honor and help these people the best way we can. The best way I found was to spend a year of my life working on this project. So this is for the war side. Now let's talk about love.
Let's talk about love. There is love in this war, and I would like to read a chapter. I need to find it first.
17.
Let me do this.
So number 1 used to be 17, so 17 is now, 18 is now 17.
So first of all, because the book is called Blindspot, and it is about the tendencies between people, between blind spot that we do not see in each other until it's too late, between about these difficulties that may arise in relationship, and also about the pain that it can cause. So, the chapter is called Dissolved. Katya stood at the edge of the cliff. The sea glittered far below, huge waves, the altitude high enough to get dizzy if she leaned forward. The sky behind her was yellowish, everything felt overexposed and brittle. She was close, too close. Her dress lifted and twisted, flame slow. Her hair was loose, catching the wind in strands. She belonged to the canvas of the sky. Troy reached the cliff from the beach. He tried to warn her, but nothing came out of his mouth. He kept trying, mouth wide open. It felt like screaming underwater. He reached out a hand. She ignored him, didn't seem to see his gesture. Or she did, and chose not to react. Beneath her, the sea pulsed, intimidating. She turned, her eyes locked with his. They carried the strange, fatal serenity of someone who had already made peace with gravity. He shook his head. His mouth spelled, "No." She smiled, a pale smile, the smile of someone who recognized the words but had forgotten their meaning. Then a step forward. Only one, just the shadow of a decision. She came a few inches closer from the edge. It cracked Troy open. The ground warped under him. Space stretched like elastic. He lurched, arms failing. The wind lifted around her, stronger and stronger, for a faint breeze to a brutal blow in seconds. She didn't jump. Her edges blurred, and then, piece by piece, she began to dissolve. Her eyes disappeared last, watching, unafraid. The sky ripped a flash, light eating light, and Troy woke up. His chest surged, sweat slicked his skin, fist clenched, sheets too empty. He didn't catch her. Katya was gone. He left his apartment without socks, sneakers, barefoot, wearing yesterday's shirt and jeans. Luxembourg at 5:07 a.m. Trimmed hedges, spotless pavements, golden light spilling from the 19th century lamps, like a frozen memory of this exact place. Empty streets. Troy walked through the old city into the tiny Rue de l'Eau, barely 1.5 meters wide, past St. Michael's Church into the Corniche. His body walked, his nightmare followed. These images of Katya vanishing, carried an unbearable weight, an ache of being too late, the shame of watching and doing nothing. The overlook opened and the Grund, the name of the neighborhood below, staged itself. The LZ curled black and bottomless, houses asleep. The spire of, you have to read this,
Abbey de Norminster.
Norminster Abbey, I'm not local, razor sharp, stood like a needle, puncturing the night sky. He gripped the metal railing, let the chill soak into his fingers. It felt like a punishment of sorts. Punishment felt like relief. He loved her. God, he loved her. At 43, he didn't know he could feel like this after years of slick affairs. But Katya wasn't just a woman anymore. She was a force of nature, a realm of her own. Being near her had reordered his nerve system. The way she poured tea, the way she sat in the silence until silence sat around her, the way she brushed Jan's hair. And now, because of him, she was steering a corroded car across a worn-torn land, visually impaired, with her son in the back seat and her elderly mother beside her. He had left them with this madness. Guilt had no words, only symptoms, like swallowing a kettlebell, a weight inside his chest so heavy he could hardly breathe. The words he owed her, he could not say them. He couldn't call her, he couldn't say the thing he needed to say. I should not have looked at my phone. I should have refused to travel to Luxembourg on my own. I love you. Instead, he buried himself in task lists, fuel corridors, evacuation protocols, procurement schedules, NATO's paper empire. He wore bureaucracy like his armor, which cut his flesh every time he moved. A defense mechanism, the only one he knew. He looked out over the sleeping city. It was perfect, just like Katya, and it was killing him. He stayed at the Corniche longer than he meant to. When cars started to appear in the grunt below, he started walking back, slowly. By the time he reached the Rue de l'Eau, his steps had found the rhythm. He was rehearsing for what he would say when he finally saw her again. No need for grand declarations, no apologies, just small, true things, tangible signs of love. He would tell her about the dream, about the cliff, about how she vanished, about how it broke him. He would tell her that he had never believed in fate until he met her, and how he did. He would tell her that none of this, Luxembourg, the NATO briefings, the perfect cafe downstairs, meant a damn thing without her voice in the morning. That he should have stayed in Kiev. He should have been with her, and he would catch her next time. He will be there for her, the kisses, the coffee, the embraces, the flowers, the letters. In the elevator, the lights were too bright. He looked more tired and more bald than he truly was. He felt better though, maybe. He let himself back into the bedroom, stripped off his shirt, sat on the edge, stared at the window, then lay down, eyes open. Nothing. Sleep didn't come. He got up, took his laptop from the desk, and went back to bed. The glow of the screen felt comforting. He opened Excel, created a new sheet, labeled it Evacuation Scenarios, column A, Location, column B, Distance to border, column C, Fuel Estimate, column D, Contact Name. His fingers moved automatically, cells filled, rows extended. Somewhere in the folder on the desk, a map waited for an update. He kept typing. His brain finally distracted. The pain was gone. Love could wait. There was work to do.
So just a few comments. I'll just answer the classical question, and then we will take your questions. We already read 10% of the book. I'm not a native English speaker. Katya is in the business of giving English lessons, but we decided to write it in English, and as you see, it's always 3 pages, 3 chapters. It was feasible for us to get to perfection. We would not be able to write long chapters. It's just a language limit. We had to write it 4 times. We still have the versions. The first version, we had the story, but we missed completely the characters. Like this chapter is clearly from the last versions. That's where you get past the story into the human emotions. And I have to say, for me, it was a magic happening in turning a story into something I felt really proud of.
Can I also add here? And I think this particular story in this particular chapter, it's one of my favorites because it explains very often and in such details how people might interact these days and how easy it is to get distracted and get yourself into work, because love is so vulnerable and painful at times and so uncomfortable, especially if there are things that you need to decide on, decisions that need to be taken and actions that you need to take also. And I think these avoidant mechanisms of us, they can ruin life and can ruin relationship at times. And I think that this particular dynamic is very relevant, and this is why the book is also relevant, describing this.
Children should read this chapter, definitely. I mean, when I see the effect of TikTok on brains, how can you have a real life if you're sucked in this insanity all day long? So the next thing everybody asks us is, what is our ambition? So we talked about, of course, a voice thing, giving a voice. My goal is very clear. I think it's shared by Katya. I want to make this a movie. So the book is just a means to this end. We were fortunate, it was almost miraculous, to find an agent, to sign a contract with an agent in New York in September. And then there's two ways, it was very clear. One way is the traditional way. It's at least 2 years, you don't move, and you hope for the best. And sometimes you end up with a contract with an American editor. Or he said there's the other way, you self-publish, try to sell at least 10,000 units. We're on track. But this is not what matters. What matters is Amazon ratings. So far, so good. We're at 5. So if there's one thing you can do, read the book, and if you like it, rate it on Amazon. Basically, this is what dictates everything. If you can get to 500 ratings while staying above 4.6, you will get a contract. Because you demonstrated that there is a market and there is a level. If you get to 3.9, just go back to your normal job. You're dead. It's as simple as that. So this is for the ambition. We are preparing for our next visit will be in Kiev. We will be going in the places that you will read about. Honey, where she's in contact with the owner. I'm looking so forward to be there. He got a drone. So it was completely destroyed, rebuilt. I cannot wait to be there. Katya will take me on those places we've been visiting 20 times virtually. So I cannot wait to tour the city. We will go to Brussels. We are working on the United Nations in New York, which should be almost the easiest, basically. And then I would like to go to Berlin. Basically, the strongest allies to just get the word out of and some support to the heroes of Ukraine. Maybe a last question, and then we leave the floor to you, and we'll prepare a microphone for the crowd. People always ask, how much is true? So again, I think we are very transparent about this. It started as a biography. Version 1 is close to that. And then we saw some chapters were just not interesting, so we had no problem moving them out. And we did feel that some parts were missing, so we made them up.
True. But also, I think, as we were working on the protagonists and on their characters, we saw that there were some details that we needed to add, something that was missing. So the story maybe was inspired by my story in the very, very beginning, but then it became a story of so many people, not mine.
I think what's confusing sometimes people is, indeed, the character is the same name as the author, the first name, and the same with your son. But again, this is so you get to get all the insights before you read it or reread it. So I think we're done with what we wanted to share with you. I have some additional questions if you're uninspired, but I believe from here, the best way would be to shoot your questions. There's a microphone here, so Oscar, if you can give it to the first person who's going to raise her or his hand. You need to come to them. Who has a question?
You know, I'm not so young, and I used to be romantic as you are, and it's really lovely to see people who are still writing about love. But how do you see the future of relationships between people in general? Friendship, relationships, what's the future? What will it bring? Because
that is difficult.
That's deep. That's a fantastic question.
I consider myself incompetent in this matter. but I'm sure you can.
So I'm observing, yeah, and I'm trying to figure out what the future will bring, actually, because of those ideas of child-free, no relationships, no commitments, and here you're writing about love. How beautiful! But is it idealistic to some extent, or is it?
You start.
I would say that the story uncovers the drama of love. It's not like a happy ending thing, right? We would love it to be, but I think the book was meant to highlight the differences between people, and maybe by understanding those differences, to bring them back together. I think that this is the only thing that the story can do. By just understanding that the fact that we both have 2 legs and 2 arms doesn't make us completely similar, and the fact that we are coming from completely different cultural, historical environments and backgrounds has to be taken into consideration, and the differences between us have to be celebrated. But before that, gently investigated. People need to understand that we are manufactured differently. We are very different. The core values of Eastern Europeans and Western Europeans are completely different. Some things that I would do or say can harm you or hurt you, and something that you would do or would not do can do the same to me, and we haven't even started.
I can give a great example.
Lots.
One of our first conversation, I remember, we were still in the shtetl. Katya almost killed me. And I will tell you the conversation because it's going to avoid to many Western people to have it again. So we are starting to talk. We are it was a great exhibition at the shtetl in Frankfurt about Ukrainian photo, and there was this guy from Odessa, this kid from Odessa, phenomenal photo. And we start to, oh, you're from Ukraine. Oh, I follow Ukraine. I'm And then I'm like, but yeah, Ukraine, Khrushchev, he gave Crimea, and a classical Western guy. He knows enough to think he knows, but really not enough to know anything. So I'm like, yeah, it was kind of Ukraine was more or less always Russia, wasn't it? And I'm sure you all related that. So I go like this. That's when I learned about Holodomor. So just to align everybody, Holodomor, it's 1932 to 1934. It's not Khrushchev, it's Stalin trying to build his empire. And he decides that if you have wheat, you're allowed to get maximum 5 pieces. I don't think you make a piece of bread with this, And if you get caught with 6, either you're killed or you go to Gulag for whoever knows. Anybody knows how many people died by hunger between 32 and 34?
In Ukraine.
In Ukraine. How many people died? It's anywhere between 2.5 and 5. So even if I take the lowest estimate, even the lowest estimate, it's devastating. Holodomor, I had never heard of it. So the war had been going on for 2 years. Like everybody in the West, I thought I understood the conflict, and in 3 sentences, she demolishes me. And the look in her eyes really made me think this was the last time in my life I ever see her. So that's, I think, one thing, this ignorance about culture. The second part, of course, is this overwhelming wave of information. Of course, you look at America, completely biased, completely polarized. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. It's hard because love, I always say, is the ultimate equalizer. Love is, the things you love the most are the imperfect things. The greatest thing is the disagreement. And those kids are using apps where they're looking for constant agreement. So I don't have the answer to your question, but I think the future and love will be this eternal start again between embracing different cultures in difficult times and finding this acceptation of the differences, which is, I think, the essence of love. Tough question.
Yes.
Maybe an easy question, there's a microphone there.
So you mentioned the first version was more an autobiography. So when you started writing the book, did you intend it to be an autobiography, or did you intend to write a book and the best way to start was with the autobiography? And at what point did you feel it switching from your story to the character story?
Thank you for your question. I would say that I never wanted it to be a biography. I was very opposed. I felt naked when Jerome said, first of all, we had just a conversation, and then Jerome says, I'm going to write a book.
It was a few hours. It was like 3 hours of conversation.
And I felt naked. I felt used even.
I remember.
And I wasn't silent about that. What's more?
Yeah, the way it went. So we met there. We were like, okay, let's talk a bit. We talked for a long time. You tell me your whole story, basically, from meeting the guy to falling in love, to the end of the story. So I'm going back home, and I'm haunted by this story. There is this blind spot idea. There's a lot of things in my mind, and it was a Saturday, so I spent, I think, 12 hours on Sunday on my sofa with my computer. This is what I do for a living. So I'm starting putting, it could be those chapters, and I'm drafting chapter 1, and and I think a week later, I'm very proud of myself because I've got 3 drafted chapters, very primitive, and I sent them to you on WhatsApp. Say, hey, look what I've done, and I'm demolished. What are you doing? I trust you with my story, and this is what you do. And I'm like, I destroy it. I'm erasing it on my side. Happy days, be happy, and sorry for the misunderstanding. But then you came back to me a week after.
So basically, I never came back to you. You were too persistent. I'm too Eastern European to come back to anyone. And so you were too persistent, and you were giving me so many good examples of how this co-authoring could be beneficial and how we could create a wonderful story out of it. And I thought to myself, first of all, I was so doubtful. I thought, and anxious, not less than what I am at the moment. And I thought to myself, what can I do? I'm not a native speaker in English. I'm not a writer. I'm not this and I'm not that. However, in your story, I saw Kyiv, and I knew that I could represent Kyiv better because you've never been there. And I could show people the Kyiv the way I love it. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna be responsible for Kyiv in this story. I'm gonna be the advocate. And so I created a huge map of Kyiv with all the places that I love, the cafes and the museums and all the parks and things. And I thought, I'm going to introduce you to Kyiv. And so we still have this map with all these places, and honey is one of them. And this is how it started. And this is how you kind of pulled me into this co-authoring, I think. And then, little by little.
I think it was a lot by a lot. I think you switch from no to let's work 3 hours per day every day. And you
or
were relentless.
5.
You were relentless. It was just we spent many months, and it was very effortless. My colleagues remember that I was leaving at 5 saying, I have a call with Katya from 6 to 9, sometimes to 6 to 12. We just felt something was happening in front of our eyes. Again, it's very small chapters, so we could write in the evening, read in the morning, 5 minutes. And I felt it was good, even though I feel version 1 is not good, but at the time, we liked the way it was evolving.
And also a very important detail is that we saw each other back then in Frankfurt, and then we haven't seen each other for maybe half a year. We only saw each other via
on
Zoom.
Teams.
Yes, and didn't see each other in person for quite some time. And yeah, this is how it was working.
I'm Natalia. I am from Ukraine. Yes, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have a question. If you are gonna present the book in Ukraine, and if you are gonna translate it into Ukrainian.
Thank you. First of all, so happy to see you here. We are not aligned on the answering this question at the moment, because at one point we wanted to represent the book in Kyiv, and we are going to go there. However, I personally don't feel the book should be translated. Because this game, this puns of seeing and not seeing, because it's blind spot. And so very often in the book you will read something like, I love you and I see you. I see you in English means that I understand you. You are here. I understand what you mean. And in Ukrainian, it will make no sense. So you cannot play with these words. And in many other ways, I think the story will lose its power if it is translated.
I can give
That's my take on
my
it.
version, which is even more surprising. You know, we worked a lot from March to December, and I took 10 days or 12 days off to New York to finish it. First, to put it on Amazon. I was looking forward to learning how to do that. It's a lot of work. It takes hours. But I wanted to do that, have a full day or 2 or 3 to put the book on Amazon. So we did that. And then I said, I'm going to start doing my joggings in Central Park, and then I'm going to translate it into French. And for me, it was like 3 days of work. I never finished chapter 1. And to my amazement, you know, I think I'm a decent writer in French. I just couldn't, because it's a native English story. And when I write it in French, it doesn't sound the same. So I haven't solved it. I stopped that. It's not published in French yet. To my amazement, I'm aware about AI. I know I could put it. I don't want to do that. I want to, if I'm going to translate it to French, it's going to be me, maybe with the assistance of a professional, but it did not work. So basically, we are aligned that it has an identity in English, as absurd as it may sound.
The metaphors, the wording, the rhythm, it sounds so good in English. And it will be just so difficult to duplicate and transport into Ukrainian.
We'll see. We might change our mind. Maybe we'll just pay a very good professional. But my limit has been reached. Another question, maybe?
Hello. I look forward to reading the book and rating it.
You already got 10% of it.
Great. yeah. Super if you get signed with the US. What about the Luxembourgish film industry? Would you do that?
I have not taken, I haven't started the contact with Film Fond, for example. I know Guy Leiden, so it wouldn't be too hard. I think we are not there yet. And I was basically this morning in the building, you know, down at the Grund. I was visiting another ministry, and it will happen when it will happen. At the moment, you know, we did the book, we published it, we became #1 in Luxembourg. At one stage, I will invite Guy for lunch and learn about what's possible, but then you need to find a scenarist, a lot of team. Maybe. It's true that the story happens Rue de l'Eau. Ironically, maybe all of you understood that the story takes place in my offices. So the good news is the offices we have can be an office or a private place. And I found it really cool to reimagine this place with the bedroom, the kitchen, all the spaces. That's my little pleasure. So yeah, it's somewhere in our mind, but it's still a very early day. We are progressing. Of course, #1 at Ernst, you are from Luxembourg. You know how many copies this translates into. In New York, they don't. So this is where Luxembourg is a phenomenal accelerator. But there's a long way to go. And still, the main goal is a movie. Maybe I'm still a bit arrogant. And maybe I wish to make it first an American movie. I don't know.
It's a question for Jérôme. If Katerina hadn't done this project with you, would you have still continued this project or no?
I want to live.
Okay.
No. Again, for those who know me, I am creative. Last year I did this one. I did a comic book about the history of Luxembourg. I'm a creative person. I've been writing for 25 years. You know, I've been working on the New York saga. I have 900 pages. The thing is, it's a boring story. It's, you know, story in New York, blah, 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 blah. And I think every writer knows. It's like a politician. You can be as good as you want. You need the proper context. And working on New York saga, I've been working thousands of hours on this. I like it. I like the story. I know the character. It's just a boring story. And then I'm presented with this amazing story, and it created the context where all those hours working on another boring book came to life. I'm French, so I'm also Luxembourger. But when I read the page, I'm very, very proud. Just because the emotion works. It means something, it has a purpose. I'm telling you, she was reading, I was crying. And so this is the magic of working on your talent until you get in the proper context. And this context, of course, is a blessing for me, for sure. I hope for you too. And we'll see if it becomes a blessing for Ukrainian people too. Because ultimately, again, we shouldn't forget here that while we're speaking, there's still a brutal war. And I hate the way we only count the damage done in Russia when there's 10 times more damage in Ukraine every day.
We just counted to feel good.
Sorry?
We just counted to feel better.
Something like this. But in the end, there is damage. There are a lot of people dying. You've seen, I follow this very closely. There's much more people dying now, like this week, than 2 years ago, because the attacks now are made to kill, when before it was made to destroy an electric thing. So it's a disaster. I'm not able to solve it, but I hope this will put it back in the media, because it needs to be solved. I mean, do you remember it was started by Boris Johnson? The guy has vanished. I know it's a shortcut to say Boris Johnson alone, but this seems like 20 years ago. And ever since, people have been fighting.
Was it difficult to find the resolution at the end of the story, considering the fact that it's still within the conflict?
We have 5. One time, some guy is drowning, there's some suicide. We tried everything. We have 5 endings. This was torture. I think we were close to finishing in September, and then the agent came in, signed the contract with us, and basically we said, here are the first 20 chapters. You're going to get the 5 last next week.
Months.
Because we had them, we saw, is it good enough, not good enough? We were not happy. And I'm very happy with the ending as it is, but it took so long to find, I don't know if you read the book already, to find this very natural flow. It tended to be overly dramatic. Some things happened in Esch-sur-Sûre. We tried everything.
So I've read the book. I really liked it. It conveys a lot of emotion. So I guess that's... while you were reading it out, I thought it would work well as a theatre piece. Is that something that you could think about before the movie?
First time I think about it, it's a good idea. Wow. Or a book that...
Audiobook, yeah.
Audiobook. I never thought about this.
You could make a comic as well. It's like a comic book.
Yeah, we could actually.
Yeah?
We could.
No, yeah. There are pretty serious comic books out there.
I know a guy who draws really well.
But you know, I had this, while you were reading, Katja, it was really like, I could see it in a theatre, minimalistic stage, because the emotions are very raw and they come out of the pages. So, yeah, just...
And it's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Basically, 90 minutes to read the whole book, which I'm very happy about, because I had to read it 10 times. But no, it's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last inspiration. If not, as I said, there's only one thing we're asking. After you read it, please go on Amazon. There's 2 ways to rate. If you bought it on Amazon, you will be as a proven buyer. Or
Authorized or something.
yeah, there's a label that you bought it, but you can also rate it if you did not buy it. And again, at the moment, this is our focus. I told you the thing with the agent. The whole idea is to demonstrate that people enjoy it.
Now I have a technical question. Do you have a Kindle version on Amazon?
We do.
Good.
This was the shortest answer.
The good news also, what I'm frustrated about that part, if people are aspiring authors or publishers, when I spent my 3 days filling all those things on Amazon, it's actually on Kindle publisher. You do those things, it's hundreds of decisions that you take. And one of them is if you go in the premium Kindle thing. And basically what it means is you give it for free to any Kindle people. What frustrates me is I see the downloads, nobody's rating. So this I'm very pissed off. I think the price to pay, if people are not paying with euros, they should pay with a rating, because otherwise in the end you're not progressing. But it is on Kindle. Took me a day to configure. Well, we would like to thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to us. Tomorrow from 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock, Katia will do signatures in Ernster in the city center, in the English one. So, not the one next to my office, the one when you get out of the Palace of the Grand Duke, you go straight to Place d'Armes or Place Guillaume. So on this one, it's going to be a great thing. So don't hesitate maybe to post a picture with her, indicate that it's happening. Carol will surely inform the public that it's happening. We are super excited that you came, and we hope that you will see the movie very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I let you conclude, Katia.
I would like to conclude. I'm incredibly grateful that you came and that some of you even read the book. It means a lot to me. But also I would like to say a huge thank you to Jérôme, the person who makes impossible things, like unbelievable things, feel effortless.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the whole team, just absolutely amazing. Thank you.